Hi everyone, it's Burt and Suzy, and we're finally back after a long sabbatical due to Burt having shingles. But as you can see, he's recovering and he's looking well, and he has this beautiful smiling face, and there's a good reason for that, because today we're talking about our favorite subject, which is what we talk about all day, every day, more or less.
That's right.
And today we're talking about the 4 stages that you go through to awakening. And the first stage is duality. And duality is where we think we're a body in a world, where the world is external to us, or the universe is external to us. We think of ourselves as the subject. We think of everything else as an object. We think that we were born into an existing materialistic universe, and that we're going to die, and this materialistic universe will continue on after us. Semi-duality is where our heart starts to open up, and we start to feel love, feel joy, peace, happiness, feelings that just don't make sense in
and
this.
More questions arise.
That's right. In a fatalistic universe, these yearnings don't make sense. So we start to open our minds about our belief systems, and we're willing to question everything that we've thought of. But we still think we're a body in a world. But maybe there's aliens. Maybe there's other dimensions. Maybe this is a simulation. So we're starting to explore other ideas. Then there's non-duality, and non-duality is where we finally realize that if we're completely honest with ourselves, everything that has ever occurred, everything we've ever read or seen has occurred in, guess what? My consciousness. That's non-duality. That's where we recognize we're the mind outside, and that nothing is material. It just comes and goes and only exists within perception. The final one is pure non-duality. And pure non-duality is where we recognize that the separate I that we thought was the consciousness also doesn't really exist. And what exists is?
That's right. Oneness.
Oneness.
The oneness experience itself.
Mm-hmm.
And once we begin to see clearly that we are all one, my goodness, the whole dynamic shifts, and we find a peace we never thought was possible. I remember when I was in hospital, I'd like to talk about it, okay?
Okay, sweetie, yeah.
Because it's a very an important point here. I was married at that time, and this was in
2007?
2007, right, yeah. And one evening, for no apparent reason, I developed a fever, and the fever was tremendous. It was going up to way over 105. And my wife, Sylvia, at the time, she got very concerned, and she wanted to call the hospital. And I said, no, this is what I'm going through, and it's something that I think I need to learn about, because I was very healthy at that particular time, And then after the fever, it lapses into tremors. I shake all the time. So between the fever and between the tremors, which were continuous one after the other, I had no time to sleep or eat. So by the 3rd day, or 4th day, I'm trying to recall, I began to die. And Sylvia called 911, and they came and carried me to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, actually, when we arrive at the hospital, and I'm going to tell you why this happened. but before that, you see, I didn't know that I could have died, or I did die, but I had an out-of-body experience where the doctor that was coming towards me, I saw him as if I knew him all my life. I knew what he thinks, what he feels, what he knows, what he experiences. I knew everything about him. I just don't want to go into extreme detail, but I knew him like I know myself even more. And then I saw the nurse coming with him. I looked at her, and I knew everything about her feelings, her beliefs, her childhood, everything. And then I saw another man who had nothing to do with me at that point as I arrived at the hospital, and I saw the same thing happen. Anyway, after that I experienced a form of light, and I believed that I was out of the body, And that light was very beautiful, and it was just like a message saying to me, Burt, you'll be okay within 4 days' time. But don't worry about it, don't try to do anything. I made the mistake of telling the doctor of what had happened to me. And he was shocked. And he thought there was something wrong with me psychologically. So he put me in a dark room. He figured I'm going to leave me there. There was no air or anything, you know. And he said that after 3 or 4 days, they come around, the doctors, and test me. It was like a different case to them. But anyway, Sylvia would not leave me, and she stayed with me, and she slept on the floor. She wasn't even given anything to lie on, and the cold floor was very cold. Anyway, then when the time came and they opened the door and they came and talked to me, they found out that there was nothing wrong with me. But at that time, also, 2 days went by, I was already beginning to feel. Sylvia went into the different stores and got me organic foods, and I ate only those, nothing else. After the 5th day, as I felt I received a message inside that I'll be okay, I was back home, cycling and everything else. Now, why did I say this? Let me elaborate here, because it has to do with the 4 levels of growth. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I became aware of, and I wasn't at the time aware what happened, because I asked, Sylvia, I asked other people, what do you think happened? What? Nobody could tell me until I was married.
Well, you were telling me one evening about this.
Yeah. And I was telling you one evening what had happened, and you said to me, Burt, you experienced your oneness. Mm-hmm. So actually, those people that I knew everything about them as I know myself. The only thing that seemed to be a little different is that I still saw myself as I am. But they were totally myself. And so my first glimpse of oneness happened at that day. That very moment that you told me, Burt, would you experience oneness at that point? That was so true. And from that point on, I didn't want to do anything else but go after that one goal. We are here on earth to experience our oneness. How did it all start? How did it happen? Well, as far as I know, we didn't begin when the Big Bang happened, And psychology makes a fuss over consciousness as the highest level of awareness, of being. Well, not so. As a matter of fact, consciousness and awareness are opposites. And I came to know that through my feeling of oneness. Maybe I should explain at this point. When I experienced the oneness in the hospital, and it was a beautiful feeling, and I loved this, and I didn't know these people, but I loved them as much as I love myself. They were myself, and at that point, after talking to you, it became clear that this is what it's all about, really. All about is we are one. I'm not separate. I am, and I am not. I call myself, I am Burt, and I seem to be separate and different. But now I know that there is really no Burt, no person known as Burt. There is only I am. And every one of us is this I am, this totality. See, but what happened to us, we don't know this truth. We don't know this teaching. Because when the Big Bang happened, we called it was the birth of consciousness. True. But also it was known as the fall of man. And this means that at that point, consciousness brought the ego into being. It created our body. We believe that God created us. We believe that God created this world. And not so. God is the wholeness itself. It is eternal. In fact, it knows no time and space. So when consciousness came into being, it is because when the Big Bang happened, how did it happen? It happened because there was a part of us, or there was a moment when the thought came, what it would be like to be separate, to be different. Well, the moment that minute second took place, that moment, everything changed. And consciousness created the possibility of time and space for us to experience that which we chose at that moment. Okay? So this moment that I'm talking about makes all the difference in your teaching, all the difference in your knowing. You can study philosophy, you can go to the best teachers in the world. Until you know that there's been no separation, you won't understand. There is no way to understand. Why? Because the world never began from the beginning. In other words, it began when time had to come into play, so that we develop a consciousness, which is an ego consciousness, and then to learn from step one until we realize the true nature of our being. And the true nature of our being is oneness. We're all one, but we don't know it. We don't feel it. We feel separation. Sometimes we hate people, sometimes we feel this animosity inside us all the time. We rarely ever feel 100% love, 100% oneness with everything. So what I'm saying here, and I have to explain myself, is that the world began when we fell into the sense of separation. The first, quote, sin. But that sin, this is the word where we have to be very clear here. It never actually happened. But we believed it happened because that's what we created. And so we created time. Time had to be created in order to have a form. And this form created also space. Because, for example, we're seated here on the couch. You are there and I am here. So there's a distance between us. But in truth, we are all one being. But that one being is still I am.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah. Tell me, please.
Okay. Yeah, for the oneness that you experienced during your NDE, you all of a sudden knew who all the thoughts and everything about everyone you encountered.
Yes.
How does that relate to love? Is that the same as non-judgment?
Because we're all one. Yes.
So at the moment where you seem to die, I guess all judgment went out the window, and at that moment...
judgment out the window, there was nothing but love.
Right, so in the Course in Miracles, where it says to give up grievances and to stop judgment, is actually how to get into this, is a
Beautiful
way to get us back into the state of oneness.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's how we get into a state of oneness. Mm-hmm. By understanding and not judging others. In fact, everyone you meet is yourself in a different form. This is a simplistic way to understand, but this is what brings all growth, is to love. Love is the only answer. When you can look at another human being and feel that they are a part of you initially, that in itself is the whole growth process. When you have that understanding, then there is nothing else you need to understand. When time and space came into being, the world was created. So the world is not real. It is based on time and space. what is real is that which is timeless, that which has never really begun or will ever end. And we know that as heaven. We know that as the life of God. God is eternal. God is the only thing there is. There are people who say, I don't believe in God. Well, they don't really know what they're saying. Because eventually, you always come to that knowing. And the four ways of growth, the moment you reach the fifth one, the fourth one, sorry, you know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you and God are one. Now, how that happens is that you are God itself, is that you have all the feelings and all the attributes and all the characteristics of God, the perfect being. God is perfect love. Did you know that God never judged us? And yet, in many of our Bibles, we place God as if it was blaming us and making us feel guilty. That is not so. I think the only truth we can ever know is lately being given to us by Jesus himself, which was started out in the fifth dimension, which it would be the 1970s, okay? And we were given a course of study, and it took him 7 years to perfect it. And now it's called the Course in Miracles, and it goes into it in quite detail. Again, to repeat that time and space do not exist. And as a matter of fact, most scientists know that. And when we come to that realization, at that point, we also know ourselves to be one. And the oneness, which means also that the separation itself we thought happened, never happened, we begin to realize that the earth, which we take for granted, no wonder is full of suffering, because there is no truth in it. It is material form based on time and space, which is extremely limited. But in truth, it's an appearance. And I had a realization where I saw this very clearly, that this earth is not real. Now you might say, what about the universe? Other countries? Well, yes, the universe will also eventually disappear. And incidentally, talking about that, I have a book written by Gary Renard, I think.
Oh yes, there we are.
Yeah.
Disappearance of the Universe. We highly this. If you want to awaken, we recommend these two things: Course in Miracles and Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard. It's absolutely amazing the way he describes the Course in Miracles and makes it easy to understand, and explains the metaphysics and explains these levels and stages of awakening.
And you might say, how did he come to know these things? Well, he had two very advanced beings who are invisible to everybody else's sight except to him, and they appeared to him. The moment I realized that that's what happened to him, okay, I knew that this is a fact, because Ramana Maharshi, a great being of the past, appeared to me in 1973 when I was very unhappy working as a physiotherapist in downtown Bay Street, Toronto. And anyway, it's a long story and I don't want to go into it, but the moment I saw his sight, he didn't say anything to me, but he spoke inside my head that this moment, this now, this very moment itself is the eternal. And if you come to know it, beyond past and future, you come to know the truth of your being. And as a result, I started teaching, the teaching of Bhagavan Maharshi. But anyway, I don't want to go into that so much. But the fact that if he appeared to me why wouldn't other two great masters appear to Gary Renard? But if you read his book, you will see not only that it actually happened, but you'll see why it happened too, because of his past experiences in the spiritual realm. Anyway, I think I've shocked you enough, but take it or leave it. I hope that you will take it and do something about it to learn. And if you have any questions at all, and it doesn't matter how you term it or write it or whatever, please send them to us. Suzy will direct them to me because I'm blind. I'm completely blind. I can't read and I can't write. But I will try to answer them with Suzy, and I will also answer them by videos. Right? Yeah. We talk about them. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hopefully, another two people will join us, mm-hmm. and we'll be able to mm-hmm. discuss in details any questions that you might have. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think I've said enough.
Yeah, you can email any questions to 4unknownfacts@gmail.com, and we'll put it down in the comments below. And we're really happy to be back, and we're excited to get your questions, and we can't wait to be back with you again.
Yes, and life is very exciting. Life is very beautiful. And life is love.
It's love.
It's love. There are no rules. There are no conditions. There are no, oh my God. There's only love, and God, which I know for a fact is very, very real, is love itself, unconditional love. And 1 million people and NDEs who have experienced the light also agree to what I've just said. But anyway, I wish you all the best. Love you all.
And see you next time.
And see you next time.